Good evening, Broad Coven. I'm here to drop in with you for a revolutionary report. I thought it was time for us to kind of touch base, check in, see how we're doing with all these changes that are flowing into our lives. We're coming up on a really important full moon, that Gemini full moon on the 27th. I will have a read coming out for that, so we'll get more into the astrology of the next cycle coming in. But in the meantime, I thought, let's just see how we're faring with the current changes and sort of tap the pulse of the collective and see what's going on with us in terms of all these transitions that we're facing. We're all in a big time of change. 111 on the clock. We're coming into alignment with the path ahead, the path that we're meant to travel. And even though we're a collective, we still have our own individual journey and how that unfolds. And we got a lot of action coming in around this, actually, that I'm excited to touch base on with you all. I did cast the I Ching for us, and I got our reading. We came up with hexagram 13, Tiung, Jen, Fellowship. And we did have a few changing lines. We had, which I love to see. I know that we headed through a period where the collective was a little stagnant, a little stuck. But as anticipated, we're moving more into that expansive energy. Things are becoming unlocked. We're not in that gridlock anymore. Things are starting to become a little bit more clear as the light builds. And we get a lay of the land. And I think that Gemini full moon on the 27th is really going to illuminate some important communication coming in that further gets things on the roll, okay? I don't think we're staying stuck anymore. We're going to start really progressing as we head toward that new moon in Sagittarius on the 12th of December, all right? We'll go into more of those details, but it does have a lot to do with the energies coming in with the I Ching, okay? The moving lines we had were the 2nd, the 5th, and the 6th positions, and it changes us to the hexagram 14, which is possession in great measure. In other words, this is all about that Sabian symbol that came in, working with the 24 degrees Aries, where it talked about the net curtain billowing in and forming a cornucopia, all right? So that spiraling inward to sort of look at our relation to our world around us on an inner level and sort of get a clue as to how we might be participating, an active participant in this creation of this outer experience we're having. It seems like it really bared fruit, okay? Because possession in great measure is really talking about moving into a time of great abundance. So I wanted to talk about what's coming in with all of that, how that looks, okay? So I think we're moving out of this time collective where we feel uncertain of what our intuition is telling us. We're not so cerebral about it, right? We're not trying to get so stuck into what our BS, our belief systems have to tell us about our intuitive impressions. In other words, we're not trying to explain away the mysterious. We're giving it time to unfold. We're getting more in touch with our feeling natures. Let me turn this deck upright, all right? We're setting ourselves free. We're getting beyond all of that, which is good, okay? We're not feeling stuck anymore, and we're not feeling victimized. We're starting to understand that we can learn a great deal from fellowship. We can learn a great deal from that hexagram 13 and really come to understand the way that the friction that we're encountering in our relationships and the circumstances around us is a progressive movement, that friction creates fire. And what does fire create? Action, all right? And that's what's sort of been missing. So with hexagram 13, fellowship, we're really looking at taking this action to socialize, get out there, interact with people, get communications flowing, make those connections, networking front and center. We have to remember this time period that we're dealing with right now is all in preparation for that dawning of the age of Aquarius, when we get Pluto moving out of Capricorn and moving forward into Aquarius near the end of January. So now is the time to get out and about and hobnob, all right? It's also the holiday season, so it does tend to be a period when we are interacting with more people. There's also a lot of stress and more of an anticipatory stress of what that's going to look like, just in terms with the usual dynamics we have with our friends, our loved ones, and what it means around this time of year, okay, when there's all sorts of added social and societal pressures. So we're going to look at that a little bit more, and what's coming in around all of that. Now, with this action to socialize, we have the hugua, or the hidden influence, which is 44 coming to meet, encounter. Now, 44, hexagram 44 coming to meet is all about coming to meet the darkness, all right? And I want you to think of it in terms of fellowship, this sort of like underlying current, that when we're looking at fellowship, which is really about coming together with other people, right? There's certain things that can be sparked, and especially at this time of year, and also with the astrology that's coming into play, which we'll go in further with the full moon read that'll be coming in next week, all right? But what we're really looking at right now is the way that those elements that can sort of spark arguments or disagreements, and how these can be thorny things, right? It's uncomfortable. This is why people always sort of have difficulty during the holidays. Either they're feeling already in this place within themselves of agitation, frustration, sometimes depression. This can be a difficult time of year for people who have undergone, some kind of loss in their life, or they're missing loved ones that are no longer here. And there's this piece about being mindful that everybody's kind of in this position already, right? A lot of people have a hard time with the holidays. This year, there's some added pressure. There's a lot of stuff going on with the economy. There's a lot of uncertainty about the future, and so this only exacerbates things, right? So there's a lot of people feeling the pressure at this time of year, even more so. And it was 7:33 on the clock there, right? But there is an opportunity for us to come into fellowship in new ways. And there's also an opportunity for us to come together with sort of a common vision of, it doesn't have to be what, it has become. In other words, we can reinvent what this time of year is all about. And maybe this means coming together with our loved ones and coming together with our friends and sort of setting a new template this year that can kind of ease the pressure off of everybody and just give a little breathing room. How about we just like get together and break bread? How about we start new traditions? You can revolutionize the holidays as well. It doesn't have to be this big keeping up with the Joneses things. It doesn't have to be all about, what kind of gifts you're buying, nothing along these lines. Maybe you don't even need to exchange gifts. What would happen if you just kept the gifts for kind of like the kids, and like took the pressure off the adults and let them have a little bit more wiggle room? Or maybe just downscale things, keep things more simplistic. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be something more rewarding. Or maybe we could even think of fellowship in a whole new way and take it further and look at it from a communal level. I mean, what if we made it go beyond just like a time of year to celebrate what's happening, with our pocketbooks and how many gifts we're able to buy, and instead made it about how can we sort of spark prosperity and blessing and abundance in our communities? How can we come together and maybe, get the family together to do a little, do a little community service work, maybe go and spend some time at a soup kitchen and just like serving up people who, could use a helping hand at this time of year. And how can we make that load a little lighter? I am going to be getting into the whole Fairy Godmother Lovers Incorporated swing of things on December 1st, and we'll be talking about all of that. And I'm really excited to get that organized community outreach. But now is also the time to think about how can you create that community outreach in your own environment. Nothing is too small, really. If everybody did what they thought was too small or not enough, it would really create a huge tidal wave of change. It's so amazing how much we could turn the tide of where things are heading for society if we each just thought, well, what can I do? Maybe it doesn't seem like much right now, but there's something I can do. And if I do that something, it might make a bigger difference than I realize. It all has a ripple effect, and that's what fellowship is all about, this hexagram. It's about understanding that ripple effect and understanding that in cases where we are being presented with friction in our connections, or things seem to be challenging because we can't get on the same page, or we don't see things eye to eye, there's some kind of inequity or misunderstanding there. It's understanding that this friction doesn't have to be a negative. It actually can be cathartic. It can be something that can be productive, because it not only helps us understand what's in need of coming up with a solution. All right, as soon as we understand there's a need to have a solution here, we can start to shift our perspective away from what the problem is and start thinking more solution oriented. And we can apply this to all areas of life, but it's also about understanding, okay, so there's a problem, there's a need for a solution in the situation, and what part am I playing in the problem of this equation, all right? Before we can arrive at the solution, we have to understand what part we're playing within that problem, all right? So this also gives us an opportunity to see that, oh, okay, so and it's interesting because everything is in reverse. I still have this deck in reverse. It's time to come out of our heads and all of this worry and stress and trying to figure out, well, how do you do that? You do that through fellowship, right? A lot of times we tell ourselves stories about what's happening, but we don't really understand what the full scope of the situation is, because we're not interacting constructively with each other within the framework of that problem, okay? You can't get beyond the framework of the problem and feeling so boxed in and stuck until you actually invite in some interaction. And that means you kind of all get in there in the mess and y'all unsort it together, instead of just staying in your heads about it, where you each create your own individual stories that are tainted by your own limited perspective, and then nothing gets moving. So it's actually sort of like getting in there and getting a little bit messy and letting it be awkward and allowing it not to be perfect is a good thing. It creates an opportunity for creativity, innovation, new understanding, different perspectives, and that this can be a creative play space. All right, we can take some of the shoulds out of it that can make it feel like a stressful experience, and instead sort of go, okay, we really see things differently. We've had these problems before, but how can we make this a better experience for everybody involved? And I can kind of understand how I've been contributing to some of that, heat being generated from that friction by, maybe not being able to see this person's perspective, or being too closed off or shut down, or whatever it may be. In other words, it's really understanding, as the master said, that everything in the universe is interacting and exchanging energy in some way. So how are you interacting and exchanging energy? Only you can participate on the level that you're able to contribute, as far as the scope of how that plays out and what manifests as a result. Each person gets to choose how they contribute their energy. In other words, you can't control how another is going to contribute their energy, but by you interacting in a different way, do you understand you already kind of shift the whole game, right? If you're used to set points, all right, spitting a little truth here, okay, with the Queen of Swords, air sign energy, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. This is about speaking truth, being clear, being in alignment with your truth, but at the same time, that Queen of Swords, she does hold out her hand. She's interested in hearing the truth of other people. When we think of the Queen of Swords as the stereotypical archetype Libra energy, which is ruling over the South Node right now, and all these karmic cycles we're closing up, we also have to remember that Libra is invested in what is just, what is true. Libra is also associated with the Justice card and Judgment card in the tarot. So things are being weighed up right now. Things are coming to a head, and we're also at the holiday seasons when, everything tends to be a little bit more prickly at this time of year, sensitive, shall we say, all right? But there's sort of a need at this time at a time when we would perhaps put up more defenses or feel sort of guarded off or want to isolate because it's the holidays, it's kind of a difficult time of year. We're being asked to, lay down those defenses and maybe think about how it doesn't have to be the same experience that it always is. I think what a lot of people are worried about right now, we got the King of Pentacles with the Tower over it. We see that things are sort of crumbling around us, and we're seeing this decline in the economy, and that's giving a lot of uncertainty into the mix, and that can be a place of wanting to sort of pull the energy back at a time when it would be better to participate, but participate in a new way, not anticipating us to be some battle, some difficult thing. It's almost like if you open up the lines of communication, everybody gets talking to each other. We understand that how much we feel the same. Instead of just thinking we're so isolated in how we're feeling, the more that we're willing to sort of like head in and to that awkward territory and open up these discussions with the family. Like, let's say there are tough economic times because of everything that's going on. And this might be something that would normally, call you to sort of pull your energy back or want to isolate. You might be feeling depressed about that. You might be feeling a lot of pressure. But how much of that pressure is actually being put on you by your loved ones and your friends and family? And how much of that is self-imposed because you're trying to live up to an ideal, or you think that there's some kind of expectation? So this is a time that those points of friction or conflict, when it's actually beneficial to sort of like look at it within and think, is this really true though? And we only find out if it's true by interacting with each other and kind of like being willing to head into that uncomfortable territory. Okay, so put down your guards a little bit, all right? And wherever you're having challenges, whether it's in a personal relationship, whether it's in the family, or if you're having difficulties on the job, or wherever it may be in your life, wherever you're kind of feeling this tension and this need to sort of like put up walls, just try to soften a little bit, okay? And make yourself receptive to having communication, because it will be coming in. And all this surface stuff, that you think is so important with the King of Pentacles here, Earth sign energy, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, it's not really about that. I mean, I think we're seeing the decline of capitalism, and like, what does it look like on the other side of that with the Tower crossing? And yeah, that does create a lot of uncertainty. And how are we going to move forward? And it's interesting, because we're already at a sort of like a stressful time of year when we're looking at the holidays. But it goes beyond that, because we got so much happening on the global level. And it absolutely has an effect. We know that. This is like second nature to us now. We know macrocosm is reflected in microcosm. We're seeing this stuff happen globally. Yeah, and it's also happening in our personal lives. And it all has an effect. And so that in an interesting way, if you look at it a different way, that should give us a lot of hope. If it's that interconnected, man, that should give us a lot of hope, because that means we don't have to just stay in this place of, loss. Maybe we can do something totally different. That's something that should give us a lot of like optimism, actually, that, well, we know how much, the way that society has been set up is sort of like really enslaved us and disempowered us and made us feel like we're in this rat race trying to constantly achieve, like, what is it all for? And has it lost its meaning? It's like, now we got an opportunity to really create a sense of meaning as we move forward into that age of Aquarius. Revolution, yeah, it's messy, it's, it's upheaval, it can be destructive, but it's a destructiveness that's productive. Much like the age of the Kali Yuga is. Kali is both creator and destroyer, as is her partner Shiva. It's that energy that sometimes you have to have everything unravel and come undone. And so let's look at it just from the microcosmic experience of the relationship we have with our loved ones, and during the holidays, and all the expectations and all the shoulds and the, the societal BS, and, all the economic stuff that comes in, and the haves and the have-nots, and everything that can feel so socially awkward at this time of year. And instead see if we can just challenge ourselves to open up to exploration in this area, innovation in this area with our loved ones, and say, can we create some new traditions this year? Can we do something a little different? Maybe all as a family, can we all get together and do something to give back to the community, and then share a real lovely meal with each other and talk about what that experience was like? Can we kind of come together in a new way, right? So it's about looking at new things you can do as a family that doesn't make it all about, the money or the materialistic aspect of the holidays, which is not what it's really about. We've lost that meaning. Can we maybe think of reclaiming it and see what that's like? Okay. And then, to take care of the kids with the gifts, do the adults really need that? Does it have to be this thing that creates a sense of pressure? And if the problem is, everybody wants, you to go to their house for the holidays, it's like, how can you create a new tradition around that? If, can you all go out to eat somewhere together? There's different ways that you can present an alternative. And here's the thing too, well, maybe not everybody wants to do that. And it's the same thing with any kind of revolution on a grander scale. Not everybody's going to want the same kind of, reality they want to build, right? So we got that to work with on a global level as well. You can start experimenting with these things though at this time, in the microcosm of your own life. It's like, okay, does everybody have to do what you want to do? Do you have to live up to anybody's expectations about what you need to do at this time of year? It's a good way to start to experiment, but we are being asked on a grander level at this time to move more into that spirit of fellowship, all right? And 2244 on the clock. This is total alignment, building blocks for the future. And so this is so important to understand that when we understand the activities of nature, there's no use for counting rods. In other words, everything that decreases subsequently increases, and there's a natural order and harmony and flow even to what seems chaotic or feels like a loss or feels confusing at this time. It's all that creative life force energy at play. Things are coming into being. And there's things shifting right now that you may not understand, or they may seem destabilizing, or your friendships, your relationships may seem really out of harmony. But there's something about this change that's actually a building block that's bringing things together in a new way. Can you be open to that? Can you be receptive to that? A lot of what's happening where people are experiencing clashes in their relationships is because the old is butting up against the new, and you got that Pluto and Capricorn energy in play. So there's a lot of resistance to like breaking with tradition. There's a lot of resistance to breaking with what's familiar and doing something out of the box, but we're being asked to do exactly that. Just sort of bringing together where there's a butting of heads or there's that clash, and working with that friction, that heat, to create some motivation, some stimulation to take some new actions, do things in a new way. And in some cases, you might have to go your own way, and take a risk. But if you are being called to do that, it's good, it's cathartic, it's productive, it's moving things forward in a new way. So I really want us to look at what this hexagram sort of moves into, like what is the underlying cause of this hexagram fellowship? Well, the underlying cause is the Jean Gua is army, number 7 hexagram. And that's all about having the correct discipline at this time, which it just, I'm really loving working with the I Ching and the tarot and astrology and sort of like bringing all of these elements together because there's such perfect synergy between all of these systems. I mean, Pluto in Capricorn is the army. It's like an army is only as effective, as tight as that army is, as focused as they are, as well as they've strategized and they have taken all the necessary steps to be a united, strong front. All right. So this is also about that piece right now of remembering that this is all about the foundation moving forward. The goal is that we move forward in fellowship and harmony and unity, not just in our own lives, but also, you know, in the lives we share with everybody who's on this earth, right? We want to move forward in a way that considers the collective as opposed to just focusing solely on egocentric gains that can be made by the individual. We're trying to really shift consciousness in this regard. That's what the dawning of the age of Aquarius is always about. But we have to first sort of apply it in our personal lives. You know what I mean? If you can't apply these principles in your personal lives where you're experiencing your personal challenges, how are you going to begin to even deal with it on a collective level when it comes to something as big as revolutionizing the way we move forward? And a revolution does require organization. It does require commonality, common goals, at least being on the same page. It's understanding that nobody is ever going to see things the same way completely. It's just impossible, nor should we want it to be that way. Diversity is part of the beauty of life, all right? We don't need things to fit within a certain mold, and everything has value. Everything is meaningful. Everybody has something of worth to contribute. And at least that's what we want it to be moving forward. We don't want this old structure that's been put in place. It's false. You know, it takes us out of the truth of that there is an interconnectedness into life. But before you can even begin to apply that on a wide scale, you have to first look at the foundation. You have to begin with yourself and looking at how you're contributing to those dynamics within your own relationships, your own experiences. So this is an invitation to that. And you get to practice during the holidays with your family and your loved one. And it's great. It's a great way to look at things in a new way, okay? The three lines that we got factoring into this situation are the second line changing, the fifth line changing, and the sixth line changing for the hexagram 13 Tiong Gen Fellowship. This is making the hexagram change into hexagram 14, possession in great measure. So right now I can tell you, collective, you've been doing a good job. Broad Coven Collective here has been doing a good job. We are getting set up into that place now where we're going to move into a time of expansion and receiving and entering that abundance flow. And I love that because it's right in harmony with what we got going on for the quest for the 4 jewels of the Tuatha De Danann. We're moving into the fourth one, really kicking that off on December 1st when we're questing for Liafoil, or it is also known as the Stone of Destiny. So this is about activating our North Node. And we're totally set up for that. I mean, possession in great measure is a wonderful sign of progress. It means we're moving in flow with the harmony of manifestation at this time, which is excellent. Okay, so be proud of yourselves. All right, this just all flipped over here. Look at this. Yes, winter, very important time. Okay, I see us taking a bold action, and that's really going to be an action that's in alignment with integrity, our sovereignty. All right, we brought that in on the fourth jewel read I just dropped recently. It's on the Stone of Destiny, and what was it called? It was called The Hunt Begins. Okay, so I really feel like that Sagittarius new moon, we're taking an action in that hunt. We're staking a claim and we're going for it. It will ultimately lead to victory. All right, that's the new beginning. That's really going to kick things off for the winter season. You'll see the full fruition of what got launched there when we head into that springtime season, okay? Spring equinox. You're going to be busy, all right? This is about getting things moving in terms of financial flow, but it's not just like financial flow. You're going to be working with a purpose, right? You're going to be building your future, and it's absolutely going to have the financial backing that you need, but this is coming together in a whole new way. It's coming together in a creatively inspired way. All right. And you might need to really invest in yourself and stay true to what you're trying to create here, because not everybody is going to get it. Not everybody is going to understand it. This is kind of that oppositional energy, and why there's this need for fellowship. All right. Because people may have opposing ideas about what you want to do. But with the King of Wands energy coming in here, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius energy here, this is about acting independently. This is about, I have conviction, I'm standing firm in this, and backed up by the Hermit energy, Virgo here. This is about, I got to follow this path because it's the light that's building inside of me that's asking to be expressed. Something about your vision, the irony about it is something about your vision isn't just about you. It also involves other people and bringing other people together. And these people may not understand the importance of the role that they play in that. And that's why there might be such a clashing of wills. This is something that might be better understood through coming together in fellowship. All right, before there can be this great possession, there's a need for people to understand, like, you're not separate from this. Like, you have a part to play too. Everybody has a part to play, but you're being led in a direction that's inspired by your emotions. There's like something that is very deep that's coming forward in you. That's the motivation that's making you go forward in this direction. And you might want to put down some healthy boundaries around this, right? It's appropriate to communicate to people, and you are being encouraged to sort of enter into that creative play space. It might not feel playful to you right now, but you are being asked maybe to invite a little play into it. Okay. Maybe there's some way that people just want to feel like they're part of it. Have you considered that? Maybe that's what's causing the feeling of separation, or is causing the disagreement, is that people want to feel part of whatever you're creating here or whatever you're building here, or they want to understand, or they have a piece they want to contribute. And at the same time, there's also this part of, you have some things that are sacred just to you, and it's okay. Okay? It's okay to have what's sacred to you. And you don't have to involve everybody in what you're doing necessarily either. But this is about inviting in different perspectives, allowing people to communicate, all right? There's something about your vision that is pulling people together, though, all right? So some of you are wanting to heal something. You're wanting to heal something in a family dynamic, or you're wanting to heal a relationship. 33, 44, it does involve bringing people together. But maybe there's a lot of people that get brought together within these scenarios, even if it's just in healing a relationship with a certain individual, let's say. There might be a lot of different people, right, connected by default with this individual that makes it more of a kind of complicated situation. And so there's still this need to invite in this openness of fellowship, where how can we kind of like, how can we look at bringing this thing together in a way where people understand that yes, you know, you're important too, and this is something that I feel called to do, you know, in my heart. There's got to be a way to find a solution. And again, the best way to find a solution is to go by what is the connecting point, as opposed to what's the argument. What's the connecting point? And so maybe that's a piece where if you're dealing with group dynamics, you can start there. It's like, okay, we all agree this is a mess, and we all agree that it's not acceptable for it to remain this way. Okay, we connect on that level. Okay, can we maybe each hear each other's ideas of how things can shift in this situation without blame? That means not, doesn't mean, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, because then right there you're moving into more violent kind of communication where things can't be worked out. But instead, is there a way I can bring something constructive to the table to say, I think this could be very beneficial to this situation, without making it about, well, this person needs to change. You know what I'm saying? Just ideas for getting the conversation to move forward in a new way. All right. So this is, how can you pull people in that way? How can you create more openness or receptivity, maybe to hear different perspectives and learn things in a new way? Because the second line that we got is people meet in a clique. And what that means is shutting others out is not a good thing, okay? Especially with just moving forward. We already know that on a global level. Like the more we continue in a divisory way, the more we're going to be like shooting ourselves in the foot. The more we can create openness, expansion, the opportunity to co-create the way forward, the better off we're going to be. But again, first we have to experience this, and well, how do I apply it even in my personal life? Because if you can't get it right in your personal life, it's going to be a challenge globally, right? We got a whole global family here. How do you pull people together in that regard? Well, that's a huge proposition. So you got baby steps. We got to start within our own situations. So this is really bringing in that spirit of how can it be more inclusive, right? And right off that bat, that means you got to get used to, when we look at inclusivity, that means you got to learn how to make room for people that, you know, you normally wouldn't necessarily associate with, or you normally wouldn't hear out. And how can you sort of like broaden your perspective in that way, or take steps in that direction? Right? So just bringing in a lot of ideas now. You'll each apply them in your life in your own way. Each of us are dealing with our own, you know, individual experiences within this sort of like framework collective theme. And there's a lot of wiggle room there, right? We each have our own reality tunnels that we experience life through. But this is just sort of the energy in play. Where are you shutting something down, or where are you shutting others out, or where are you kind of like keeping yourself from having an experience because you have BS around it, you have a belief system around it, and you're not willing to sort of like be willing to have maybe that belief be subject to error. You know, maybe there's room for a new view or different perspective. Can you be even open to sort of looking at it from a different angle? All right. This is important. If we do that, then this line changes into a wagon arrives. You have the means to succeed while still staying true to yourself and your vision, because that's essential. But if you stay true to yourself and your vision and your own integrity, while still being able to, like, you know, be more open to understanding another's vision, okay, then you'll find support comes. Support comes. Sometimes people just want to know that their input matters, you know, or that you even care what their perspective is, or that you care what their dreams or visions are, right? And that's usually in a group dynamic that helps things move forward much better. And is there room for everybody to have their vision and have that be reached? Absolutely. And there's also needs to be the understanding that if you both have different visions, then, you know, in terms of a relationship, that means you both may need to go your different ways. But does that mean you can't still be in fellowship with each other? And what is fellowship? Fellowship is to understand everything is interrelated. And so is there a way that this can be harmonious? Is there a way it can benefit all at the end of the day? All right. So it's really about learning to move through tricky territory in a new way. But we know that as long as we stay true to ourselves and our vision, because that is essential, right? Where you're being guided to do at this time is coming from the deepest place in you. You have to honor that, but you also have to honor that in others. And so where you're experiencing friction, it's a good reflection point. Are you maybe not honoring that in another, in that case where there's friction? Or are they not honoring that in you? And is there a way you can communicate that effectively that doesn't involve insults or cutting somebody down or shutting them off, but instead creates some room for understanding maybe something more constructive, creative, or innovative to come out of that? Maybe something new, a new potential or possibility that you couldn't even recognize before. 4022 on the clock when I brought that in and it went to 4033. So these are all building blocks for moving forward in the future, okay? The second line we got was that fifth position line, and it says, people cry, then laugh. After a struggle, a meeting occurs, and this changes into clarity, all right? So again, where there's not this willingness to engage and sort of like, all right, well, let's get into it. Let's get messy. Let's engage. Let's figure it out. There's nothing but misunderstanding that can result because people kind of live in their own little, reality tunnels and tell their own stories. And so then you get confusion and it makes it difficult to pull things together. But with this line moving, which is good, it shows we're actively engaged in this process on some level. It changes to the fifth line in possession in great measure, which is truth accessible and dignified. It is the character that attracts good fortune, and you are seen for who you are. So this kind of goes back to that piece that's come in before about it doesn't matter what people have to say about you. Is there a need to really defend? Is there a need to enter into argument? Okay? If you are doing something that is aligned with your core truth, it's aligned with the essence of who you are, is there really a need to argue with people who disagree with you or think you should do something in a different way? It's sort of like, just be who you are, be in alignment with your truth and your vision, move in that direction. Go ahead, take the heat, take the judgment of other people. At the end of the day, you'll be seen by your works. It's like the way you show up, what you do, and how you're investing your energy will end up speaking your truth for you. You don't need to get into a battle of wills. And that's what will ultimately attract you support in the end. Your dignity will be restored. You don't need to dignify yourself to somebody who's tearing you down because you're following your heart. You're going in a direction that feels inspired on a soul level for you, whether it's to make amends with somebody or to approach somebody, start up a relationship with somebody, or build a vision, build a career, build a dream, build a foundation, or whatever you're being called to do at this time. You don't need to justify that to anybody, because as a sovereign being, you have a right to pursue your destiny, and you have a right to feel that you are being held in such a way that's dignified. And if somebody is being disrespectful or they're not willing to move into fellowship, sometimes that fellowship comes about by you just being in your truth. And it's by you being in that truth that you allow the support and the understanding to take root. Because once people see it in action, they're like, wait a minute, I get it now. And it was 43, 44 on the clock. Sometimes words fall flat. It's the action that actually reveals what you can't put into words for somebody. It's once they see you in action, they get it. And that's what's going to attract this good fortune to you. This will also turn things around and move you into this time of possession in great measure, when it's like, 44:11 on the clock. Now we're in alignment. People get it. They see the vision that I'm building here. Or they see what it is I've been trying to achieve, or they understand why I want to heal this relationship, or why this is so important to me. And now they're on board. So this is beautiful. This is showing that everybody individually, at least in this collective here, you all are doing the work. You're looking at yourselves. You're moving through this stuff. It's tricky territory, but you're getting a lot of insight along the way, and you're sticking with it even when it's uncomfortable. And this is paying off, because it's really moving you into this place of preparing to take these important actions. Yeah, look at this. So this is what is the crossing influence. We got this 6 of Pentacles, right? And on this card, we see this one individual's in this like power position. We've got two people on their knees. And this is what we're looking at here. It's like, how can we balance this? Not just within our own lives, you know, how we're expending our energy, what's coming back in, but also maybe we need to look at this a little bit more about, well, where can I give? Right? Since the blocking energy is sort of what's holding things back right now, that we're not meant to sort of like hold back, we're meant to give forward. Well, how can we give? What are we able to give right now? And where we are able to give, and just give for the sake of giving. You know, this is also a beautiful way to consider fellowship, and that there's this interrelation in life. Maybe you can't give gifts, right? Maybe you can't give money. Maybe you can't give things that require you to be in a certain financial position, or to have achieved a certain status, or whatever this stuff is that we set as a criteria of being successful. But can you give your time? Can you give a kind ear to listen? You know, can you give some of your energy to something? Can you give your support? All right. So it's also about this as well. But we're moving out of this, you know, this space of inequity where, you know, somebody has to feel at a disadvantage while the other person's the only one that benefits, or, you know, looking out at the greater picture for that as well, right? Just the imbalances in society, the haves, the have-nots, the 1% that, you know, the vast majority who feel like, you know, it's a never-ending mountain that they're climbing. They get to the top of the mountain just to realize, oh, that's just one little teeny, you know, plateau there. There's a whole other mountain to climb ahead of me. So some people are really struggling with this concept right now because they're already feeling really tired. But when we understand and look at this as, oh, I'm not just one person struggling with this stuff right now. Like, everybody's struggling with this stuff right now. And once you understand that, it changes the framework of it. It's like, wait, okay, we're all dealing with this. Okay, so we all have this common problem. We're not so alone. And then it just makes natural sense. Well, how can we come into fellowship with each other to work this out? You know, that's when we really all benefit. Okay. That's when we come into a place of clarity. 47:44 on the clock, 11:44. This is all alignment stuff. It's building blocks for the future. The final line we had is the 6th line, which is people outside the city equals distance prevents fellowship. And then it changes to 49, molting, revolution, which I just love. It's like, there doesn't need to be distance. The distance is in our minds, all right? You can bridge that gap. We bridge that gap by inviting in the friction, by saying it's okay. It doesn't need to be comfortable. This is cathartic. It's destructive and creative all at the same time, and we're all in it together. And so once we do that, we can build a momentum where we can shed this illusion that we can't turn it around, because we really can't, from the perspective of our personal lives, but absolutely on a grander scale. Look at that. Bottom of the deck energy. 2 of Cups. The Caduceus energy here. Transformational energy. Having the courage to kind of gain that new perspective and come into that alignment. It's beautiful energy. Right? And this line changes into, once we bridge that gap and we make our world a little bit smaller, which, hey, man, a lot of it is learning how to connect online in a more meaningful way, like we're working on doing here, okay? And people can do this in their own online communities. People can do this in the way they show up on social medias. We start to do this and we start to take these steps. That alone, we start to hack the algorithm. All right, we're taking over the airwaves. We want the airwaves. You know, the more that we kind of like step into these positions, we really shift the tides. Okay, but it's also about don't just look at it on that level. Look at it on the level of in your own relationships and how that sparks change too. The more we understand this interconnectivity, the more empowered our actions. And it's really beautiful when we look at possession in great measure, because with possession in great measure, The master said, do not play the host, but become the guest, which means don't try to sort of force a way. Don't be emperor in reverse energy. It doesn't have to be my way or the highway. It's our way. It's the Tao. We're all on the road together. Many roads lead to the Tao, the one road that we're all on. And we're all looking to create the same kind of future. So if we can get into this place where we're really looking at how can we all win, it totally shifts the perspective. Even just asking that question instead of fixating on, well, I'm fighting with so-and-so, we don't see things the same way, and they did this, and they, instead, what if you just, every time that came into your mind, you instead said, how can we all win in this situation? I know that's spicy because you might really be combative with this person, but still, what if you ask that question? How can we all win in this situation? And if you don't want to look at how you can all win, then you might want to ask yourself, what's really motivating the argument here? What's really motivating the argument? And that's an interesting perspective to invite in. That's a bit of some deep shadow work. Because ideally, if it's all interconnected, then we should all want to win, right? We should want what creates win for everybody. All right, so this is something to like be mindful of at this time. And that's what it means to not play the host. To not play the host, but to be a guest is to say, how can we all win? And then like, let that be revealed. Once you open up the space in your consciousness to look at things from that perspective, in your personal situations and on the grander scale of life, now we're creating receptivity to a solution. Do you see? When you focus on the fight, there's no way for that to even begin to come in. The action, the possession in great measure requires of us is to shine, right? So we're meant to like step into the light now. We're meant to move into that more light building kind of energy, and also to allow ourselves to kind of be seen in what we have to contribute in that way. So shift the perspective a little bit. The Hu Gua, the hidden influence, is 43 determination breakthrough. So that's where we're at right now. And I really feel like there's this communication that's going to get kicked off with the Gemini full moon. That's when we're starting to like play with these ideas. But I feel like that breakthrough is coming with the Sagittarius new moon. It's going to be a real important time. Okay, there's something that happens at that time. It's an action, it's a new cycle that really kicks things off. But this is about coming into a place of strength and clarity through uniting forces. Okay, this is also us aligning with a power and an energy within us that can't be depleted, because now we're tapped into source. Now we're cooking. We can get manifesting a new way forward, right? So this is coming to that point where you align your will with the way. You get out of your way by aligning your will with the way. And you say, how can we all win? This is my intention. I want us to all win. That's my goal. And you hold openness for that. And life will show you, all right? Because what's coming in now is a time of arrival, which is a really beautiful thing. And for the 6th line, in possession of great measure, it says, you are blessed by heaven to receive what you need, equals great good fortune. And that's because you have no need to cling. When you don't have a need to cling, everything comes to you because your dignity has been tested and is now totally unquestionable. You understand? If you're not able to think from this perspective, how can we all win? And instead just thinking about, well, this is what I want. This is what works for me. And you don't have that consideration. You can't, we've talked about this so many times here, right? A fixed hand is a losing hand. You're holding something tightly, nothing can come in to fill that space. You got to really look at how can we all win? When we look at how we can all win, this intention alone, this is nothing but openness. And by doing this and not clinging to anything and allowing and like, okay, I'm trusting where my path's leading me. I'm not supposed to go here. All right, it's kind of uncharted territory. I thought I was going to be heading into this career direction. I thought I was going to be marrying this person. I thought that I was going to be living in this place, but okay, well, I guess I'm going somewhere different, or I guess I'm aligning with somebody new, or I guess this is the direction I'm supposed to head in now. There's a lot unknown here, but there's this ability to enter into fellowship with life and understand something creative's at play here. And I'm trusting because I'm focusing on how can we all win. So I know I'm included in that. You get it? I know I'm included in that. It doesn't have to be a loss that this is falling away. I don't need to cling to it because my intention is we all win. So I'm already included in that. So this must be the way I need to go to win. You see what I'm saying? This allows you to elevate even as it opens the way for others to do the same. It's a beautiful intention. It was 56:11 on the clock when I said that. 11:11 energy. All these cards came out, all right? This is about, again, yes, look at, I love this. Look how this came out. Ace of Wands in reverse. Two of Pentacles in reverse. Five of Swords in reverse. Strength in reverse. Queen of Cups in reverse. We got water sign energy, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. We got strength here, Leo. We could have Cancer, Leo, Cuspers. This is about turning around this energy where you take action that throws off the karmic balance because you're only considering what you want. That's what that Five of Swords is. It creates imbalance when we only think about what's best for us or what I want. But this energy is being turned around. And that's what affects the change. It's thinking more collectively. And it creates this shift where we're no longer in this illusion, this delusion, all right? Coming out of illusion and delusion to come into alignment, all right? This is that beautiful, you know, again, the sixth energy, it's healing, it's recognizing that we're all soulmates on this journey, that everybody who comes to our path that we're finding challenges with, or we're feeling that we're struggling with in some way, or they don't understand us, they're actually a soulmate. Like even the difficult relationships are soulmates. And they're all part of our growth and our evolution. So this is really understanding this and it being grateful even for those connections, because those challenging connections are allowing you to learn more about yourself and go beyond your own limitations, okay? So it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Let's do a cut of the deck here on this. See what we got. Knight of Wands, and this is what gets us moving forward. Passionately, purposefully, look at that beautiful Temperance, balancing things out, doing the alchemical work. There's a big healing coming here, collective, right? You've really done a lot of transformational healing work, and you're about to step into the fruition of that long process you've been on, and it's going to happen a lot quicker than you expect. You're really going to accelerate. 58, 44 on the clock, okay? That's a beautiful 1344 energy. You're stepping into your power. And it's a power that cannot be depleted because it's being sourced from something much higher than you and something you're being called to do. And you're finally aligning with it. And you're shifting your perspective to one where everybody wins. And I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can get one of these Sacred Rebel cards out here. I only got a few seconds here. I want to launch this with a live chat and get it out to you all tonight. So we're going to do this, working on a tick and talk round and tick and talk of the clock. Let's see. It's countdown, man. Yeah. It's time to come to life, collective. It's time to come to life. And it's just up ahead.